So, I'm Ollie. I'm your friendly neighborhood combat vet who shows up to this class 9 times out of 10. Today we're going to talk about the Hurt Locker and the chemistry it got wrong and some of the things it got right. Easy enough, right? My experience with IEDs is typically running the hell away from them whenever I found them in Afghanistan. But for the sake of this class, I'm going to show you the basics of it. So an IED, it's as complicated or as simple as the creator wants it to be. For the purpose of this lesson, I'm going to give it to you easy. What we have is the basics of what you would need to really make a bomb. Substituting these for shrapnel. So first off, you need a container to put your boom in. This is the container. And yes, they can use this in Afghanistan, and they have. So you have your container. The next thing you need is you need a charge. Now, with the war going on, bullets are expensive nowadays for the enemy, which means they really can't use them as often as they would. But in the early days of the war, they could use anything as simple as these 380 rounds and take them apart. On the bottom part, you have a primer, which is really what they want to get after, because that's already a small explosive charge. Enough of these, you can set off any bomb. So, for the sake of this, we're not disassembling anything explosive. We're just going to put this in here to give you an idea of the charge. So you have your charge. Cool, right? Well, now you need a way to get your ignition to it. So, you need wire. Old MAC cables work great. All you would do is take a handy pair of scissors, cut the cable, knife, and kids, don't do this at home, please don't cut yourself, yada yada yada, safety things, and expose this wiring. What you're doing is you're pulling out these wires because they're great conductors. Now, they got that right in the movie. Wires, wires, wires. Copper's expensive, which is why the enemy deals in drugs. So we have some wires here. Your wire, you have it. It would go in to the charge. So you would take it. Ideally, you would wrap it and tape it. The reason being is you want this piece to connect with the charging, the primer. So a little bit of Scotch tape. They typically would use something a little bit more heavy duty like duct tape. Or soldering it if they're brick, because who wants to really put flame next to explosives? Now again, this is inert, it's not an actual bomb, kids. And no, I'm not going to teach you how to actually make it. Just going to give you the basics. So, you have that nice little travesty of a wiring job right there. So this is the bomb piece. You take your shrapnel, or ping pong balls in this case, and you place them in there. That's your shrapnel. Cover your bomb up. There's the first part. And the second thing is your ignition. And your enemy doesn't have the ability to block radio signals. You take your cell phone and you hook it up. Like so. So you would wire it into the back of the cell phone. I'm not pulling apart my iPhone 5 because I'm broke. But for the sake of it, we're going to put it right there. Paul, can I see your phone? So young Joe starts walking by. You call your cell phone. Bomb goes boom. Now, the United States has some really cool stuff in its arsenal. Most notably is our Paladin systems and our Thor systems, the mechanics of which are considered secret, but the basics of them are public knowledge. What they do is they block out incoming cell phone calls. So, overseas, bad guy tries to do this trick. Typically, there's a Paladin system there. What it does is it has a small circumference around the vehicle, blocks out the cell phone signal. You can call out, but you can't call in. The Thor works the same way, except it's man-pack. It's carried on the backs of the guys walking through the streets. Has the same, a little bit smaller circumference, and it's done in 3 waves. The reason being is that each pack blocks a different type of frequency. Frequencies are added as they manage to get past the system. which is also secret. This bomb is the one that sucks the most. It's the pressure plate IED. You would take your bomb, and your wiring, place it underground. This is underground for this. You then have your battery packs. Typically what they do is they grab some dead batteries that we threw away. We got better about it and started recycling them, but they still managed to get their hands on them enough. They would take it, they tie it up to the wiring, and they have a couple, typically a string of like 15 double Ds that are pretty much dead, but just enough juice to hit the charge. They hook that up to it, to a pressure plate. Pressure plate comes down, hits the charge on it, completes the circuit. Circuit goes in, bomb goes boom, people go home. Not fun. That's the basics of IEDs. Now, where the Hurt Locker got it right. IEDs are real. They got that part right. They are made from a variety of chemicals. Most notably is the ammonium nitrate stuff. Because it's explosive. Mixed with the correct components, you can make a big boom. We saw that with Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma City. We also saw that with the Boston City bombers with their pressure cooker bomb that they left at the finish line. That was set up on a timer. Timers aren't typically used overseas anymore because they're doing the same thing we're doing. Hearts and minds. It's hard to win hearts and minds when you're blowing up the civilians. Now, what they got wrong is this. Bombs aren't flashy. They're not fiery, giant infernos. That doesn't really happen in the real world, and the reason being it's a waste of chemicals. That's shock and awe. If you're going up against an industrialized military complex like ours, shock and awe means nothing to us. It's just a pretty fireworks show. It's going to scare the hell out of the locals, but your average Marine, soldier, airman, coastie on their 4th, 5th deployment, they're not caring much about your fireworks show. They're worried about the concussive blast. Now, the second thing that they got wrong is you never touch a bomb. It's the biggest rule of all. Once you find it, you leave it alone, because an unstable bomb is an unhappy bomb. And unhappy bombs do things we don't expect them to do. Like, going off unexpectedly. So poking them with sticks, guilty, shooting them, or, as Hurt Locker made famous, picking up a daisy chain system of 155 rounds, not exactly the smartest idea. The other thing they got wrong is typically your EOD techs aren't walking out there in that suit. They don't want to be any closer to that bomb than we do. They send a little thing called Johnny 5 out there. It's pretty cool, goes out there, has his own charges with him, sets it up, sets his timer, and runs away. On the back end of it, Johnny 5's being controlled by an EOD tech who's getting paid buku dollars to sit there and play with the robot all day. And that, guys, is the actual science of bombs.